As a real estate agent, you know that the industry can be tough to navigate, with constant challenges and obstacles to overcome. That's why we created the Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate podcast, where top performing agents share their insights and strategies for success. Join us as we dive into the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a thriving real estate business. Your host, Lindsay Favazza, will be your guide on this journey. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn from the best in the business.
Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate podcast. I am your host, Lindsay Favazza, and today we have a very special guest who exemplifies what it means to truly crush it in real estate. Joining us is none other than Barry Jenkins, a seasoned real estate professional, a dynamic team leader, an inspiring coach, and an innovative trainer. Barry's journey in real estate began at the age of 18 and has spanned almost 2 decades, marking him as a veteran in the industry. He's not just any realtor, he's a visionary who has led his team at Better Homes and Gardens in Virginia Beach to incredible heights. But Barry's impact extends beyond just sales. He's a best-selling author of Too Nice for Sales, a book that has revolutionized how nice people can excel in sales. As the head realtor in residence at the digital marketing firm Ylopo, Barry has also been instrumental in training and product development, sharing his wealth of knowledge with others in the field. Today, we're going to dive deep into Barry's journey, his strategies, and his insights, which have made him a standout figure in real estate. So, say hello, Barry, and welcome to the podcast today.
I am super excited to be here and honored to be in an environment of people that crush it. That's such a fantastic topic for a podcast. So, yeah. Excited to
and you definitely do that. So we had to have you on. I know I was talking to Dave, who is our VP of sales, who I know is close with you. And he was like, you have to have Barry on. And I'm like, oh my God, of course we have to have Barry on. So I'm so glad it all worked out and so quickly too. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So take us back to 2 decades ago when you signed up to be a real estate agent at 18. Why is that? Why were you so motivated at such a young age to get into this field? And, do you have any regrets about starting so early?
No regrets. I was managing a shoe store at night and bussing tables for lunch. And I had someone that had access to a lot of cash that said, look, you're hustling. I see you putting a lot of effort at 18. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate? And I said, no. And they said, well, look, if you find a property, we'll do a $100,000 line of credit with a balloon payment at the end of 12 months. You can buy it, flip it, and sell it. And I did not know what I didn't know, and I just did it. Like a typical 18-year-old kid. And I made maybe 20.
It sounded really good.
It did, but, I didn't know what could go wrong. And nothing did go wrong, but I just wasn't aware of the gravity, and so I just did it. I took the opportunity. I made $26,000 in 6 months, and I never looked back. And so for the next, 6 months, I bought a property for myself. I moved into it. That's when I got my real estate license. I was in college. I never stopped going to college, but it really took the wonder out of college because, I'm learning marketing and management courses. And I just knew that wasn't going to be the track that I was going. So I finished it, but it wasn't really I wasn't all about it. And I got my real estate license. I did fine just because from 2001 through 2007, it was so easy. You stick a sign in the yard, you'd get 8 or 9 leads. Digital marketing wasn't as popular as it is now. So it was really easy. And where 2008 completely crushed me though. It wrecked me financially because the market changed. And I thought just by being diligent and consistent and doing the same things that I always did, that there was wisdom there. And I guess in some ways there was, but I never changed. And so I only made $1,000 that year. And that journey from 2008 through 2010, that really is what made the book. And 2011 is when I made my first $1 million as a result of the suffering of 2008 to 2010. So it really was that 2.5 year period that changed my life forever.
Well, and you said that in the beginning, you didn't know what you didn't know, right? And you were getting into real estate kind of blindly in a way, like not knowing what the risks were. So it sounds like when those risks came, you were that much more, blindsided by the whole
It
thing, which
was.
I'm sure a lot of realtors at that time were. Like you said, it was easy. Kind of reminds me of the last few years where it's like you put a sign on the ground and it's just going to sell
Yeah.
magically.
Yeah.
We just went through that again, and maybe now is the time for a lot of realtors who started then that are now getting that wake up call. So, but it's very
Yeah.
interesting that you say that, you were kind of this green, like didn't know what you should be afraid of in a way. And then all of a sudden it just hit you. So tell me about those years, those 2 years, what kind of got you through? Why did you stick with it?
So I 2008 to 2009, we lived off of credit cards basically. And so I racked up, I think maybe $60,000 in just groceries and gas. And I had my equity lines cut off because the housing market shifted so quickly. It was just really hard. And I talk a little bit about this in one or two of the chapters in the book, but I got a couple of sales jobs to support my real estate habit. One was selling steel buildings, another then over the phone, and another was which taught me my phone skills, and then another was life insurance, which convincing people that they're going to die and they should buy this piece of paper to protect their family is just a tough gig. Like anybody who's good at it, like God bless them.
Mm.
So basically, I did real estate part time and paid my bills through those other sales jobs, and it was those years that taught me all about sales. It taught me what was wrong with sales. Like I didn't feel good about myself at the end of the day. Creating false urgency, tricking people into closing, specifically with the steel building industry. That was a really popular thing. And so that really is where I got my chops. And so once 2011 came, I realized that I had a new opportunity, and that was REOs. And so that provided me with a chance to do what I loved again. And so I gave it all that I had. And the result of that period is I now I pivot quickly. And because there's been many from 2011 to 2023, there's been many micro shifts, none as dramatic as 2008. But the
Mhm.
reason why my business has continued to grow and thrive through all of these shifts and ups and downs is because I'm paying attention and I pivot quickly when I see there's a shift. And now it's more like a game than anything else.
You feel like a little cat and mouse.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to recognize. Like I remember when COVID, everything shut down for 3 months. We were still considered an essential service, but everybody in my market just like hunkered down, right? We just didn't know what to do. And I
Yeah.
remember the sales meeting, it was Zoom, and I said, Zoom wasn't a verb at that point; it wasn't as popular. And so I
Mhm.
told my agents, I said, look, I hope this all ends in a week. I said, but this feels like 2008. As a result, everybody download Facebook Messenger on their app. When you meet a lead that wants to go look at a home, I want you to friend request them. I want you to do video showing tours through Facebook Messenger. We
Mhm.
crushed it that year, like
Yeah.
obliterated our goals, made tons of money. And it was because we were paying attention and we adapted quickly. And
Yep.
that's the name of the game in any business, not just real estate. But I do think real estate tends to be a little bit more challenging as far as watching the trends and knowing how to pivot and all that stuff.
Yeah. So when did the transition to having a team start? Was
Mm.
that before 2008 or did you do that after 2008?
Yeah, that was as a result of 2011
Mm.
because I I had struggled through 2009 and 2010 with these other gigs doing part-time. 2011 I had a shot, right? I had a real chance to do something different. I think I sold maybe 50 REOs, and as a result of the REOs, I produced an additional 75 transactions. So in 2011, I did 125 transactions by myself, no staff, no assistant, no transaction coordinator. I was excited and miserable. 70, 80-hour work weeks are really hard to maintain when you're trying to be a devoted father.
Yeah.
And so, I said, I remember the moment I was the number one agent in my market, and I was so excited at the Realtor Awards. They had like the screen, and like there was that 5 seconds where it finally showed number one agent, and for 5 seconds, I was elated. Sorry, I
Yeah.
just turned we're gonna have to edit this. I just turned my AI on with my hand gestures.
Oh, no,
Uh,
that's okay.
Sorry. So I was elated uh, during those 5 seconds, but then it ended. Nobody was really paying attention, and as a result of that, I said, that's not worth it. Being number one didn't satisfy me. I'm going to have to figure out how to pour into others. And serendipitously, right around the same time, I had three old friends from high school reach out and say, "Hey, I see you're crushing it. I'm in the food service industry. Hey, I'm an appraiser. Hey, I'm a contractor. Would you teach me what you're doing? I would love to learn the business." And those three agents are what started the team. And so that journey of building a team, mentoring agents has been a very hard one. And My next book, I'm about halfway through with it. It's called Too
Oh,
Nice
good.
for Leadership, and it's the subtitle is a compendium of all my screw ups, because basically I've got 2 decades of screwing up as a leader, and that's what's made me the leader I am today.
I love
But
it.
that running the team has definitely been a learning experience. We're up to about 80 agents now.
What do you think is the most fruitful and the most rewarding thing about having a team? I can kind of assume I know what the answer is to that. But then what has been the biggest challenge or the biggest mistake, I guess, that you made?
I mean, selfishly, I really value freedom. When people say, like, do you enjoy money? Yes, because I enjoy freedom. And for me, running a team and empowering others to be successful is gratifying because I'm watching their lives change. But if I'm being transparent with you, I do it because it provides me with a better quality of life. And I have a teacher's heart. I really enjoy enlightening and empowering others. It doesn't matter the subject. Like, I'm not married to real estate. It's real estate has produced allowed me to produce a tremendous career, and now I've got agents that need me, and so they still have a direct access to my calendar, where they can book one-on-ones with me, and I'm empowering them. The most challenging part, I I am not good at hiring people because I see the possibilities. I see what they could become. I don't see who they are.
Mm,
And so I think the most challenging thing for me is leading them to water, so to speak, and watching them not drink. And so I call that out a lot. I tell them in group settings that, look, some of you are going to lie to yourself and say, this isn't for me. I tried real estate and it didn't work. And I want you to know it's because you didn't do the work. So don't just die on the vine quietly over 3 to 4 months. Just be emotionally aware and honest with yourself that you're not giving this your all. And then if you decide to leave, you didn't leave because it's real estate. You left because you didn't want to do the work. And I have found that 60% end up doing the work and 40% don't. That's normally the numbers. And so we grow off of those 60%.
and that's the thing, you give them that little word of wisdom, which
Mhm.
seems probably like, "Okay, yeah, I get it, Barry," right? I'm sure you get that every once in a while. They're like, "All right, yeah, all right, I'll put in the work." But then it's so true because if they do put in the work, you know that that's gonna actually come, something's gonna come of it. And then once something comes of it, that's when they become, addicted to that feeling and they know it works and now they're gonna take off. But
Right.
it's that like, yeah, I mean, we see it all the time with agents within our training system and then also agents within the company. And it's like, that what they're capable of. It
Yeah.
it literally there's no and tell me if I'm wrong, but in the 8 to 9 years that I've been in this business now, I look at it and I see someone come into our trainings or a new agent in the company, and I look at them and I think, wow, they're going to be really good. And then they end up not. Or there's someone that I'm like, there's no chance they're making it in this business. And then all of a sudden they're like the number one agent in their office, right? Like it's so crazy. There's not like a certain type of person. You
Yeah.
can literally be anybody, but the bottom line is putting in that work and believing in yourself and not giving
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, and I would say the persona of agent that thrives on my team is the agent that typically gets left off in a room of superstars. Like, I need people that will just listen and execute. It might not be pretty. Candidly, they might not sound great. They might not have the look of your typical rock star. They might not have the car, but they do the work the way that I teach them. And so I'm looking for people that are hungry enough to do the work and experienced enough to see the opportunity I'm providing them. And I really, the last year of my life, I've really gotten into like therapy and learning about feelings suck. Like they just, it's much easier as a man to disassociate from them completely, but like there's moments in your life where you realize, and so I'm trying to impart that to my agents, and I'm thinking I can hear one of my agents in the one of the calling rooms next to me right now. He's brand new, he's 18, and before he made his dials a week ago, I texted him and said, look, before you make your calls, I want you to call me. So he said, I'm getting ready to make my calls, and I had a 2-minute conversation with him, and I said, you're going to call 100 people today, and 80 of them aren't going to answer, and 20 of them that do, 18 of those 20 are likely going to tell you to leave you alone. And you're only going to find 2. And I want you to know that if you find 2 out of those 100 attempts, you are going to have a thriving and successful business as a real estate agent. He called me later that day and said, Barry, I got hung up on more times in my entire life, but I found 3 people that want me to send them information. And that made my heart sing, right? Because
Yeah.
it reframed what could have been a really discouraging experience. And I
Yes.
love that for him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears for a second.
Yeah.
You're talking about having a team and writing now 2 books
Uh-huh.
soon. You're talking about being a dad. I know you just have so many different hats that you wear. So, from an agent's perspective, which is mainly the audience here, um, how do you kind of stretch yourself so thin, but then be so great at all of these different things? And then from, a team leader perspective, how do you make sure that the team feels like they're getting the most from you without spending all your time babying them in a way,
Yeah.
right?
It's a great question. And I would
Yeah.
tell you that it's been an evolution over the last 8 years. And let me speak to those single agents that think that this isn't
Yeah.
relevant for them. You're probably doing everything. You've gotten to the degree of success that you have because you're different. You care more than other agents. And that's what makes it hard to find help. Let's be honest, no assistant is going to ever care as much as you do about your business. And because of that, you're holding on to all the details. And I want to tell you emphatically that you have to let go to grow. Doesn't mean you don't care. Doesn't mean that you've let go of your business. It means you understand that your greatest value is doing the things that only you can do. And so I have learned over the last 8 years that the slower and the more intentional and more methodical that I am with my time, the more money I make, the more success I enjoy, and the more peace that I'm able to have in my home and my life. So when you say yes to something, by default, you're saying no to something else, right? So if you say yes to a 3 o'clock appointment with person A, you're saying no to a 3 o'clock appointment with person B. Choose wisely. And if you take what you want to make per year, like let's say you want to make $100,000 and you divide the 40 hours in a week over 52 weeks, I think that's like, I don't remember, I'm going to make up the number, but let's just say it's $130 an hour. Let's say that's $130 an hour times 40. And I know my math's wrong, but just hear me out for the example. If it's below $130, you need to start thinking about hiring someone. And my first assistant was in 2012. And I was so scared. Oh my gosh, I was so scared. She was $10 an hour. And I was sitting outside of REOs to wait for the power to come on. And I hired her. And I said, if I can sell one house, paying her $100 a week as a result of that time. Well, I sold 2 that month and I never looked back. And within 4 months, my assistant had an assistant because I bought into the fact that I was accelerating my income by having people do things that were below my pay grade.
Yep.
I never stopped doing things that way. I haven't stopped. So you guys hear me saying I'm doing all these things. Well, I say no to a lot more. And I also have a full-time job at Wailopo. Like that's a full-time gig.
Yeah.
And so I've got lots of full times, but I somehow make it home for dinner every night.
Mm-hmm. Well, That's amazing, and
Thanks.
congratulations, because it is a hard thing to learn,
Yeah.
but you've done it very, very well.
Thank you.
So another kind of shift gear here is I want to hear the craziest, obviously, that you can tell, but like, what's your craziest real estate story? What is something that's happened that you're like, oh, this is a doozy? What's that story you tell at the dinner party?
Yeah, so I helped a first-time buyer buy a home in a neighborhood with a high crime rate, and 5 years after she bought it, she was relocating to Texas, and so she asked me to list it for her. I listed it for sale. Someone from my church that I was going to contacted me about the house that I listed. So now I'm representing both sides. They understood what that meant, the
Yep.
implications from a legal perspective. I had a Chevy Impala, and we had the home inspection. Found a couple of issues, nothing major. And I had aviators on, and in a high crime rate area, everybody left, and my car wouldn't start. So I'm waiting for the tow truck company to come, and I notice a townhouse in front of me had 4 visitors stop, walk up to the front door, shake hands slowly, get back out, get back in their car. And I was like, okay, so looks like a business transaction. Not really sure. And about an hour and a half later, a woman walks out of that front of that house, walks up to my door with a 45, very large pistol, 45 caliber pistol, and she says, "Are you the police?" And I don't know what possessed me to do this. I really don't. But I started laughing. And I said, "I can't believe you rolled up on me with a 45 caliber gun and asked me if I'm the police. No,
Yeah.
I'm not the police. Here's my business card. You can check my website." Uh, Still to this day, like, I don't know, but I didn't really have any options. My car wouldn't start, right? Well, so then maybe 10 minutes
Oh
later,
my
I'm like,
God.
"Oh, come on," just like, "Please start my car." She left. She said, "Okay, I'll believe you." And my car
What was
finally,
she gonna do if you said yes?
I don't know. I don't know. But my car did start like 10 minutes after.
Thank God.
Calls me and says, "I thought you said your car didn't start." And I said, "It finally did, and I was getting out of there."
You're
And
like, "You scared the crap out of me, and I hightailed it out of there as soon as
so now,
possible."
though, now I've got a situation because now I represent both sides, and I just
And you
had
can't go
someone.
back to that house.
Well, yeah, and well, no, I did still go back, but
Oh,
like, I represent the buyer, and someone
yeah.
walked up to me with a gun, right? So I got with an
Ooh.
attorney because I'm like, what the heck do I do? Like, who do I tell what and when? Like, how do I disclose this? And at the end of the
Ah,
day, I made proper disclosure. I referenced the event. I encouraged the buyer to check crime rates, and just shared my experience without any anecdotes. Like, I had to be
yeah,
really careful,
yeah.
and they ended up buying it anyway. But like a year or two later, they sent me a picture of bullet holes in the side of their house. So I was really glad that I made proper disclosure. But yeah, it was a
You
really intricate, convoluted scenario to be in.
Can you imagine if you got that text after not doing that? Do you know what I mean? Like, your heart would have sank knowing that you had known that there was something like, you absolutely did the right thing.
Doing the right thing normally is hard in the moment, and rarely do you regret it later on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. That is crazy. I've heard some doozies, but that's up there.
Thanks.
I mean, the Impala with the aviators, I mean, you were kinda asking for that.
I was. It was a cool aviator too. Like, I mean,
I
not aviator,
know, right?
cool Impala. Like, I really, it was a good car. But yeah, it
What
was,
year was this?
I want to say like 2011,
Was it
2012.
like an old school Impala too?
No, no, no. It was the new one. So
Oh, okay.
uh, I don't know how that works. I don't know if police officers get the new ones or what. But yeah, it was a newer. It wasn't the cool round one. It was
The
the
older one, yeah.
yeah.
My brother, as soon as you said an Impala, I had a flash of the name Gladys came in my head because my brother had an old school one with, like, the loud engine and all of that, and we named her Gladys. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that was I immediately was like, "Oh, you had Gladys."
that's funny.
All right, so I wanna make sure we only have a few minutes left. I
Mhm.
wanna make sure I give you a chance to talk about the book because I know Dave has said nothing but great things to me about it. I know it's off to such a great start. I know, how long ago did you release the book?
About, I would say, almost 2 years. It's almost been
Oh,
2.
okay. So it's been out for a little while.
It has. The first year, it did okay. We didn't s it but I didn't advertise it. It's a
Takes a
self-published book.
while. Yeah, it takes a while.
And then year 2, something clicked. Guys like Dave and other broker owners across the country,
Mhm.
after they read it, they started buying boxes of them and
Yes.
giving them to their new agents. And now I think we're over 25,000 copies sold. It
Wow.
stays in the top 10, top 20 on
That's
Amazon for
amazing.
real estate sales. Um, and I think looking back, I think the feedback that I've got from it, that's part of why it's made a success. I write like I talk, so very very standard. I didn't learn what a noun was until I was in my 20s. So like it's hilarious that I even wrote a book, and it's just stories. And the stories are designed to help people recognize that um, uh, as nice people, we get off these sales calls without trying to close, without going for the appointment, without trying to overcome objections, and we think, I'm so glad I'm not pushy. And what I really try to help people understand is that they've actually become very selfish on those calls. They're more worried about their need to feel approved of and accepted, which are legitimate needs. But think about burdening these strangers on the phone, trying to get these strangers to like us. They're leads, but they're strangers. And
Mhm.
we're talking about things just trying to get them to like us. And it has nothing to do with the lead. It's all about us and our need to feel successful and approved of. When a nice person recognizes that they've been selfish and they recognize that the most compassionate thing that they could do is challenge someone's thinking when they say they're waiting a year, to not just say, okay, I'll call you in a year. Say, I think that's fantastic that you're planning ahead. How did you decide on a year? And you hear the person on the other end of the phone struggle through that answer, and you're able to say, it sounds like you're trying to figure it out. We should be meeting to go over this. This is the largest financial transaction of your life. So you recognize that you can come from this place of sincere service, right?
Mhm.
Compassion, and you can crush it, to use your show's phrase, in this industry. You don't have to be the hardcore closer. And if I put the calloused, so there's 2 ways to do this. Either you're going to be calloused and decide, I don't care, buy or die, I'm going to close the sale, or I'm going to get off the phone and move to the next one. That's one door, and those guys
Mhm.
do fine. Those guys and girls do fine. But the people that do it the way that I'm teaching, they outlast and outpace them 10 to 1, because the person you have to become to not care, it screws up the rest of your life. But if
Yep.
you can stay in this position of passionately serving people around you, you actually become a better human. That means you're going to run a marathon instead of a sprint.
And with referrals, I mean, a whole huge part of long-term sustainable success in this business is repeat business. So it's like, that other churn and burn is not going to get you that repeat business. So
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we will make sure to put a link in the show notes so that
Thank
people can go on Amazon and get that book. Make sure to follow Barry. We have all of his stuff. I always go to point and I never point in the right spot, but there
you.
you
Did it.
go.
You did it.
Um,
Yep.
make sure to follow him, reach out to him. He's a wealth of knowledge and such a nice human being. It was so great to talk to you today, Barry.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you guys all so much for listening. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate podcast. Thanks so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, share it with your friends and colleagues, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you're interested in being a guest, email us at info@crushitinre.com. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to crush it in real estate.